the first purchase order we sold out in 4 days. And the business went from kind of, $2 million of revenue run rate to kind of 5, 10, and $20 million of revenue in 6 months. So there was just rapid acceleration, not only in terms of like demand for the product, but our team, customer service team, customers generally. Again, we're shipping nationally. And so there was a fortuitous, I don't have the crystal ball, this is a long-winded answer, but there was a fortuitous timing of when we launched on Kibble.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Start to Scale Founders Podcast by Gilder. I'm Taiga, your host. I'm super excited with today's guest. His name is Russell Breuer, founder of Spot and Tango, calling out of Manhattan, New York. But Russell, if you can give our listeners a quick introduction of yourself, that'd be fantastic.
Thanks for having me on the show, Taiga. I really appreciate it. Background, I'm a Cleveland kid, had a very traditional career in management, consulting, and private equity. It took me from the East Coast to London for 8 years and then moved back to New York in 2012. And my wife and I, we began cooking fresh human grade meals for our mini golden doodle, Jack. In fact, credit my mother-in-law with kind of the idea. She'd been cooking meals for her dog, George, for decades, and other dogs in the family. And so really that started this journey, which is now, Spot and Tango, and very much a homegrown studio apartment. It's a cliche, but true, a studio apartment, kind of side hustle to now a 9-figure business that's growing very, very rapidly. Been at this for more than a minute, I'd say 8+ years full-time in the seat, but enjoying every minute.
Wow. So there's a lot to unpack with that, but I first want to start with your background in Cleveland. Cleveland's known as more of, manufacturing, a lot of factory workers. Was there an entrepreneurial community in Cleveland when you were growing up? Were there kind of folks out there that you can pick their brains, talk to in Cleveland? Was that kind of where you started your
That's an interesting question.
Journey?
I've never had that question before. I mean, Cleveland's the Rust Belt, yes, but the city is large enough to support 3 major professional sports franchises. There's a lot of business owners in Cleveland, for sure. I would say that when I was growing up, I was born in 1980, I'm 45, entrepreneurship and the idea of startup was not really a thing. Times have changed, obviously, very dramatically with, the inception of technology and social media, et cetera. But not really a thing. I would say my kind of operator entrepreneurship ambitions evolved kind of in college and shortly thereafter, really after cutting my teeth in management and consulting and learning a lot more about how businesses operate. I think that sparked a lot of ideation. And, ultimately I'm sure like you and, family, friends, there's always like fun, Post-it notes and ideas or, around the dinner table or having a beer with a buddy. It's like, oh, hey, wouldn't it be cool to do X? Or there should be an app for that. I was always in that conversation, but I was the guy who showed up the next day with like a couple of slides of like, hey, that's a really good idea. And like, let's flush this out a little bit further and let's get to day 3 and maybe there's something here. And so I always had kind of the itch, in those days, no one kind of made it to day 3 or day 4. It was like the idea evaporated and we're kind of on to life and traditional careers. I'm referring to my kind of cohort of friends at the time. And then ultimately found pet. And that obviously stuck for many, many reasons.
Wait, and what do you mean by found pet? You
found the pet food industry.
Got it.
As in, after you kind of years of ideas and iterations, or grand plans to start a business, the pet food category and sector really began to resonate, and was something that I was living every day with my own family, and big believer in that health and wellness is a right, not a luxury. And ultimately, it turned into a full-time job.
That's amazing. I want to unpack your time in consulting. Did you focus on CPG products when you were a consultant, or how did you get that CPG bug? I feel like that's a really, consumer product goods is such a niche kind of industry to jump into as a entrepreneur. Did you work with CPG companies when you were consulting?
Wide, another great question. Wide spectrum. I worked in everything from, most of our clients in those days were like big corporates, multinationals, Fortune 50, but I covered everything from like CPG and consumer to aerospace and defense to telecom to pharmaceutical. It was like drinking from a fire hose. I was 22, post college, didn't really know a lot about business, honestly, and learned by doing. Um, and those experiences to me really highlighted like how the world works. Like, how do you bring a product idea to life? How do you manufacture? How do you ship? Like, what are 3PLs, warehouses? Like, this whole network just evolved, as far as my understanding of capitalism and business. And I think that was really the springboard to figuring out how these companies work. And I had spent kind of then years in consulting and then internationally for brands in Europe and in the UK in particular. And so had 7 or 8 years of fantastic kind of consulting business experience. And then that kind of evolved into private equity and learning kind of how companies work from a capital strategy perspective, both on the equity and debt side. Um, and then it was kind of happen chance luck, if you will, where, my wife was in the family, was very much cooking these recipes for our dog, Jack. And I think it was kind of the combination of all of these collective experiences, because ultimately Spot and Tango, and we can talk more about the business specifically, of course, we are a manufacturer. Like, we make stuff,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Most brands don't. We vertically integrated, and we built something, and we have a innovative delivery model. It's direct to consumer. We have a consumer veneer, but ultimately we produce ourselves. And so I think it was honestly a combination of a lot of different industries and experiences. It wasn't deep sector expertise in CPG and consumer. And I'm a passionate consumer, either operator or investor. And therefore the consumer was, the output of these experiences. It was kind of all of the above. And pet, the category, just given, I'd say, thematics in terms of growth rate, the humanization of pets, delivery model, tech-enabled solutions, e-commerce, all of that stuff really resonated at the time that we were launching the business. And then just pet ownership in the US obviously is significant, depending on the report you read. It's like 6 or 7 out of 10 households own a dog, which is unbelievable, but true, and growing every day.
I mean, I'm half Japanese, and I actually think that there are more pets. People are having more pets than children in Japan. I think there were 660,000 people
Wow.
born in Japan,
Wow.
and I think people are now having more pets. Another huge
I believe
market.
it.
If you're,
I
yeah,
believe it. Sure.
it's incredible. You started Spot and Tango in 2017, and it seems like a very serendipitous time to start. Pre-pandemic, did the pandemic accelerate your maybe go-to-market strategy? Because it seemed like during that time, everyone was getting pets. People were locked up in their apartments. They're working remote. I even adopted a little cat during the pandemic just because it was helping me with my loneliness. Was there kind of a lot of serendipitous, you know, events that happened to help Spot and Tango get to where it is today at 9 figures?
Yeah. So kind of taking a step back, like, what does Spot and Tango do? We are a pet health and wellness brand. It's spotandtango.com. We ship our products direct to consumer. That's for starters. What do? We make unbelievable products for pets. It's the mission is using human grade whole ingredients in everything we do. The core product is food. We make a fresh frozen food, and we make a product called Unkibble. And again, all sourced in the USA, food grade quality, not feed grade. Food grade is ground turkey from, upstream suppliers that often have grocery stores and restaurants as clients, as an example. Fresh carrots, brown rice, all recipes formulated to meet the dietary needs of dogs. Okay. So everything we do is drastically different than where the pet food world has been for 50, 60 years, with very little innovation, a highly processed diet, and a kibble format, which you're probably familiar with. It's brown. It looks like a sphere, and every product in the market is identical. It's just branding is the differentiator. Our product looks different. It smells different. It's processed differently. That's what we do. So in the early days of the company, to answer your question more directly, we were a fresh frozen brand only. So it's cooked product. So you have a commissary kitchen, you cook ground rice, a ground beef, brown rice, you add fruit and veg, and you freeze it to ensure safe delivery, last mile to end user, and customer has to defrost prior to serving. So it's a ready to serve balanced diet for dogs. That's what those are the original recipes. We still have those original recipes to this day. For us, though, to kind of talk about COVID and, reacting to customer demand, we launched a product called Unkibble in April of 2020, just before COVID really took shape. In fact, we all had COVID at the time. We were a 5-person team. Unkibble is in response to 2 pain points from the consumer. One is fresh frozen is expensive. And the reason is you need cold chain to deliver e-commerce, as in installation and dry ice to keep the product frozen. That's expensive. One, it's terribly inconvenient. You have to store the product in the freezer. We have a lot of urban cities, their dogs and customers, not a lot of freezer space or fridge space. And so customers were saying, like, I'm trading like my food for my dog's food, and we deliver on a 4-week cadence. So that's a lot of product to go in the freezer. So we decided to kind of go back to the drawing board, and it's like, okay, how can we deliver on the same mission of high quality human grade ingredients, nothing artificial, nothing synthetic, that's shelf stable, and that is Unkibble. So Unkibble is all of the same inputs. We take out the water through a unique fresh dry process, and therefore the product is 30 to 40% less expensive than a lot of fresh frozen competitors in the marketplace. That product launched in April 2020. Okay, so the cohort of kind of fresh D2C brands is now, I'd say, relatively mature. There's brands I'm sure you've heard of. They're all marketing like fresh frozen, fresh frozen. Consumers are saying, yes, love it. Either I can't afford it or terribly inconvenient. And all of a sudden, Unkibble shows up. And that business is, scaled unbelievably rapidly. I mean, that was, we always tell the story. We ordered kind of, 3 or 4, what we thought was 3 or 4 months worth of product in the early days. The first purchase order, we sold out in 4 days. And the business went from kind of, $2 million of revenue run rate to kind of 5, 10, and $20 million of revenue in 6 months. So there was just rapid acceleration, not only in terms of like demand for the product, but our team, customer service team, customers generally, again, we're shipping nationally. And so there was a fortuitous, I don't have the crystal ball, this is a long-winded answer, but there was a fortuitous timing of when we launched Unkibble. Again, continuing on these trends of like humanization of pet, product convenience, health and wellness, delivery model. So all the same features of the original business, but with a new product at a time when enter your story, Taiga's story, adopting a cat, 23 million dogs were adopted during COVID, and a lot of pullback on the performance marketing side from the kind of CPG landscape. D2C brands pulled back spend, and we were right there. Wham, product just took off, and that's really set us on a different trajectory as a company.
And so, when you go from, 6 figures of revenue into 7 figures of revenue within 6 months, as a founder, what are like these steps that you can grow strategically? And I'm assuming you're also are you bootstrapping this whole time since you're getting all this revenue coming in, or what kind of like the processes you scale?
Yeah, but family friend around in the early days,
Yep.
Very loyal supporters, literally the neighbors, parents, etc. What had started with my wife in kind of the studio apartment, she continued working in a more traditional finance path. And then I built a founding team. I have a former co-founder, and we built out management team for the business. And so in the early days, there was kind of modest amounts of capital to help us scale. And it was then really getting that acceleration. We refer to as escape velocity, where you're seeing very high repeatability and very strong product market fit signal, such that the institutional investment community said, this is an opportunity we want to back. And at that stage, we raised more material capital to continue scaling.
And when you raise a tranche of funding, when you increase your revenue by, X amount, what do you focus on first? Do you focus on hiring the right people? Do you focus on refining your messaging? Do you focus on, finding the right distributors or the right manufacturers? What kind of is your main focus when you get that tranche of funding?
Yeah, I would say our expression is like we build the plane while we fly it. So D, all of the above. But in terms of sequencing, it's all team. And that's one of our success criteria, which is we've hired incredibly talented people, both in operations or marketing or in finance or in logistics or supply chain. And we've been able to stage those hires over time. Those individuals are unlocking margin wins, are unlocking, kind of channels of distribution, although we're just e-com and D2C. Now we sell on Amazon as well, or unlocking wins on messaging. And again, in the early days, it's, the goal is not to let the perfect be the enemy of the good, right? So if you spend all your time trying to refine, copy your messaging, like you won't scale. It's like get the product produced, get it out the door. Our job as operators is to deliver an incredibly high quality product and to overserve from a customer experience perspective, right? We are only as good as the next customer and our ability to retain all of our existing customers. And so that was the focus point. And then over time, of course, we're dialing in copy, the margin story changed dramatically over time. And again, we can talk about this, but we outsourced everything from kind of one co-man. And then at our peak, we had 6 co-manufacturers across the country. So imagine, FTL, full truckload, 18-wheelers going from East Coast to West Coast, North to South, 6 different buildings, all making unkibble at kind of our peak of the outsource model to a point where we actually decided to build our own factory and in-source production. So those are all staged journeys.
Hmm.
And I'd say, to other entrepreneurs and founders, it's really doubling down on like having competent people. You can't do it all yourself. Now, that's all to say, the early hires in the business are the kind of all around athletes. Those individuals can kind of do it all. The marketeer maybe doing a little bit of ops, a little bit of CX. I certainly did in the early days. And then as the company scales and, you can find more specific skill expertise or deep skill expertise, those are role players. And so you'll see some evolution on team there. But I'd say team would be the answer to your question.
Got it. And, when you're in the early days of Spot and Tango, were you like, as far as just the first steps, because, you know, building a, dog food or kibble or just pet food in your back, in your apartment kitchen, and understanding that this is a good, because I know, I know there's probably a lot of people that cook their own pet food in their apartments. What was the reframe this? What's basically the thing that clicked in your head that you realized that this is actually a really sustainable business model? And
Yeah,
what were the first steps that you took?
yeah. I think ultimately I alluded to the size of the industry, the category. So like, there's a lot of dogs, right? 1, 2. There's a lot of thematics in terms of health and wellness and interest in these types of diets. Not only, people are going to grocery stores, organic, grain free. These are all kind of ideas and concepts that didn't exist 20 years ago. Well, it's here now. The dog, we like to say the dog used to sleep outside, now the dog sleeps in the bed, right? So everything that people are doing for themselves, they're doing for their pets. Pets are members of the family, dogs and cats inclusive. So I think for us, like there was kind of demand signal of, early days was like, hey, we make this product. The neighbor wanted it, then the neighbors wanted it. The friends of friends, referral based marketing. So there was this kind of very organic groundswell. And that's kind of the moment we knew like, oh wow, there's the phone's ringing off the hook. There's a lot of inbound email interest in this product. Like, let's make more of this stuff. And then very quickly it turned into like, well, we can't do this in the apartment. Let's find the incubator kitchen. Well, we can't do this on the side as a part-time job. It's a full-time job. Okay. How do you operationalize that? Right. How do you scale that, build the website, build the supply chain, build all the kind of core unit economics of the company? But I think in the early days, again, it's this fondness for animals. And certainly we realized that our mission and, the priority of a human grade diet for Jack, that philosophy was shared by millions of Americans. And that's one of the reasons we've been successful.
And it seems like nowadays everyone's focused on B2B businesses. Did you always want to do something that's direct to consumer?
Not always. I think, again, like it kind of stumbled upon the human grade pet space. There wasn't like the grand plan. I think the delivery model direct to consumer, we actually tested retail early as well. So in the first kind of year of the business, before kind of building out founding team, we sold in up to 14 pet specialty stores in the 5 boroughs. So we had branded freezers by point of sale, and we sold online, like small, medium, large in terms of like portion size, to test like both delivery models and learn about both. Like brick and mortar is hard, merchandising is hard, payment terms is hard, opening up accounts is hard, it takes a lot of salesmanship, right? E-commerce, like velocity, like very fast. So really looking at both of those like delivery models. And so D2C, I think, won out. I think just given how quickly we were able to grow that business, even in the early days, brick and mortar to be scaled, you need a lot of doors. To get a lot of doors, you need distributors. Distributors eat margin. A lot of working capital implications, a lot of brand implications as well to be successful. And so we thought D2C was easier to sail and make changes in real time because the company was kind of growing and maturing. So no doubt, creative changes, copy changes, it's easier to do online because you can do that stuff in real time versus on shelf. Requires a lot more lead time. And I should add, Taiga, that kind of part of the secret sauce here is that our recipes are personalized, and so we learn a lot about your dog's lifestyle, weight, activity level, and that informs calories consumed per day per meal, right?
Hmm.
So this is in response to an industry that has very wide band of recommendations as far as food's concerned. I'm sure you've observed that with your cat. Cat weighs 10 pounds, scoop 1 to 3 scoops per day. Like that's a huge caloric band, and that's one of the big contributing factors to what people refer to as the pet health epidemic. 1 in 3 dogs is obese. That's one reason why, and we use that kind of pain point to inform this personalized recommendation, and that was also part of. So we moved away from kind of small, medium, large, built an algorithm on the website, and that's unlocked a lot of opportunity as well as people think about a product that's actually fit for their dog's needs specifically.
Yeah, I mean, it's a brilliant model. I looked at your website. I saw that personalized quiz on, the size of your pet, all the details about it. And then also having that subscription model too. It's brilliant. I mean, $7 a week, it's a drop in the bucket for most people. People that want their dogs to, be living 15 plus years. It's a fantastic investment. How did you come up with the name Spot and Tango, and how did you come up with the personalization model? I've never seen that in any other kind of industry for any other pet food suppliers.
So the original company name was Breuer Premium Pet Foods. I'm Russell Breuer. It's my surname. In those, at that moment, we kind of realized that Breuer could be pronounced Breuer. It's hard to spell. If you Google search it in New York City, Marcel Breuer pops up and points you to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which doesn't sell our products. And so we wanted to find a name that was more uniquely pet. Actually, my co-founder's father came up with Spot and Tango, and we've been rolling it with it ever since. We rebranded in kind of February 2019. It's uniquely ownable, so no one else has the word Spot and Tango. If you do a Google search, we're the only company that pops up. And so that was part of it as well. And then personalization, again, as I mentioned, like we were only offering small, medium, large plans in the early days. And then we figured out how to personalize both on the website with the quiz and also operationally. And that, again, was a huge unlock. And again, that's really responding to feedback from the customer base, right? So I mentioned earlier this example of the impetus for launching the Unkibble business after building a fresh business really originally. We use customer feedback to inform everything, honestly. It's the customers tell us like what's going well, what's not going well, are there delivery delays, what are your interests in new products? So we not only offer food, we also sell treats, supplements, and a dental care product called Pup Gum as well. So for us, it's holistic health and wellness across all categories delivered direct to consumer.
That's incredible. How do you compete with maybe companies like Greenies or some of the other food brands that are the big name brands?
Sure. So Greenies is in the dental care space. And so Pup Gum is in response to that opportunity. Periodontal disease affects 93% of dogs age 3 and above, right? As in people don't brush their dog's teeth. Why? It's difficult. Pup Gum is in response to that. Most of the products in the market now mask the issue, i.e. the products have a physicality or a mechanical brushing action, like there may be ridges on the product, which scrapes plaque from the teeth. And that's the solution. Either that, or you're going to the vet for an expensive cleaning, right? Pup Gum is really first of its kind innovation. One, there is the mechanics. So we have a very specific bespoke design where there's the mechanical brushing aspect. We also have flaxseed in the product, which helps to brush the teeth. But I think more importantly, there is a postbiotic inside each chew of Pup Gum. This postbiotic is, again, it's never been seen before. It's hard claimed, clinically proven to address bad breath in dogs by reducing the biofilm on the dog's teeth. Biofilms lead to plaque. Plaque leads to bad odor. This addresses the biofilm. So it's really at the source. And we named it Pup Gum. It's blue, it's not green. and deliver direct to consumer. So that business we launched kind of in May of this year. It was quite a lift to bring that to market, and I can say that the sell through and demand for that product is unbelievable. We sold out in a week and a half again. So we got the kind of unkibble feels of like, wow, we launched something like that really resonates with the consumer. And so we've been actively scaling that business as well.
When you are launching a new product, how do you innovate the product? Because it sounds like there's a lot of science involved. Do you bring on like a dental expert? Do you bring on a health expert for pet food? How do you come up with these new innovations for your products?
Sure. We have like dedicated strategy team, right? Which is getting a sense of like, what's the market? What's the research? Like, is there demand for these types of products? Let's do a survey. Let's go survey 1,000 customers. Like, what are your interests in these types of ingredients? What are your interests in these types of formats? Where is your price sensitivity? Do you purchase these products currently? So we gather a lot of research, both primary and secondary research, to build out a business case of, is there a viable path for product A, B, or C? And our job as entrepreneurs is to continue to innovate. So first, it starts internally. Once we've built a business case for that new product, and we have conviction that it's worth pursuing, like financially, i.e., like what's cost to launch, what's like projected return in terms of like revenue and the P&L profile. So like we put all of that thinking to work. Then we bring in both internal expertise and external expertise, whether that's PhDs in animal nutrition. There's a lot of lab testing. There's a lot of palatability testing. So we actually work with several partners who have, 40 or 50 beagles on site. Beagles as in like the breed of dog who's going to consume these products. So we're measuring and looking at, actual dog's interaction with the product, and we're having all of the science infused into it as well. And then there's the really fun part, which is bringing a brand to life. What do you call it? What's the URL? What is the UX and UI? What's the experience online for the customer? And that was very much the Pup Gum story. So it was the first time we actually launched a product outside of the Spot and Tango ecosystem. So Pup Gum, you can either purchase within spotandtango.com as an active customer, or if you only wish to purchase Pup Gum, you can go to pupgum.com and purchase that product separately. So that's a little bit of the inside baseball as kind of our product innovation process, but we are actively bringing new products to the market. So that's an active work stream. I think some other companies we know out there kind of built a food product and that's kind of it. It's like they built it, they just do food. For us, the pet parent and the dog, they're consuming across category, and we want to be that one-stop shop for the customer.
Did you decide to have that separate URL for Pup Gum, just Pup Gum for SEO optimization? Is that kind of the main reason why?
I'd say SEO optimization. It's also the first time we've offered something not on subscription. So you can purchase it once, you can purchase it on subscription if you wish. It's also a product that can live omni-channel very quickly, just given the AOV and the profile from a price and packet architecture perspective. So it was really kind of an experiment, like, okay, let's give this a try with, I think, high hopes, but little expectation. And it played well. Right. And so, and again, part of like our ethos here is like rapidly test everything, whether it's copy in a email or a subject line or creative testing, or website testing or funnel testing or landing pages. In this case, it's the actual physical product. A lot of this is, you can only learn so much from the research, and eventually you've got to pull the trigger and get live feedback. And not everything works. We've launched things that haven't worked as well. And so I think our goal as a business is to launch, and you ever hear the expression, fail fast, fail often. It's like figure out where the winners are and lean in. And that very much informs kind of the creative strategy of the company, where we're launching new assets, whether in Business Manager on Meta or on Google or on TikTok, and the ads that resonate with the consumer, we invest in. Ads that are fatiguing or losing efficiency from a customer acquisition cost perspective, we turn off very rapidly. It's that mentality. Test, A/B test, and test and learn, and then execute is again kind of part of our philosophy.
Most of your inbound lead generation, is that from paid ads?
It is. We are lower funnel direct response marketers across some of the core channels I mentioned. At the end of the day, we're in the entertainment business, right? So I've got to compete with clicks from every other e-com pet brand out there. Cat food brands, even though we don't sell cat food. Tennis shoes, t-shirts, like anything in consumer is going to draw the attention of the consumer, right? folks are on the bus, they're going to work, they've got a lot on their plate, right? The world's changed with technology and Instagram and otherwise. And so there's this kind of, you're constantly inundated with products. If our creative doesn't break through the noise, like we won't be successful. So yes, it's all kind of creative, lower funnel, paid performance marketing. That's really the wheelhouse. And I think, to support that, building out top of funnel brand marketing campaigns to build out the awareness of the company. That's also very, very important.
What was the biggest challenge in your entrepreneurial journey with Spot and Tango?
Building a factory, was not in the cards, but again, we grew so rapidly, kind of 2020, 21. We were toying with this idea of like vertical integration, which is very contrarian. People don't build factories because they're expensive and they're hard. We did it. It took kind of 2 years to do. We launched it in October of 22. So we're now 3 years operating our facility in Allentown. We have over 100 employees there. And so it's grown very rapidly. We further innovated. We've automated. We've built in the right technology and the right equipment to be successful. But that was a big swing, right? So, imagine launching a product and then within kind of 18 months, the product's, 50x in terms of scale. You've hired all these new people. And then it's like, great, let's build a factory with very little manufacturing expertise internally. And our actually one of our institutional investors is very good at building factories and scaling supply chains. And so we leaned on them heavily to be successful, but that was a huge lift. I mean, when I mean lift, I mean, office and bathroom trailers outside, hiring the team, like building that knowledge and expertise. And it's been a big unlock for us. But again, contrarian, again, a lot of it's easier just to outsource. For us, outsource was an option, but not at true scale. We ran out of runway, and our goal is to own the supply chain.
Wow. And yeah, I mean, that's incredible. One question I have about your background, you lived in London. How did that international experience shape, just how you strategize today? Like, just, I feel like being international, I live in Buenos Aires, it gives me a different perspective on how people are, how people live. How did your experience in England shape who you are today?
Sure. I think it made me a better manager. And again, early days, you're kind of doing everything. Now the company is scaled and we have our headquarters. We have Allentown. We have a customer service team, which is dispersed throughout the US. And so my role is, whether it's product innovation or capital strategy or commercial strategy, like team is a huge part. And so one of my primary responsibilities is to source and retain talent. And I think traveling overseas and working in London and Europe, I met so many people from very, very different backgrounds, socioeconomic, demographic, ethnic backgrounds, industry backgrounds, really across the gamut. And so I think that probably built a lot of humility and being empathetic to our team here at Spot and Tango. And that's probably, again, one of the reasons why we've had very high employee retention. And again, we've searched for people with empathy and humility. That's one of our core values. So I'd say that's probably one of the many lessons I kind of gleaned from living abroad.
Very cool. And kind of even to just go further back, I noticed you studied international studies in Spanish in undergrad. Why did you decide to go that route?
Yes, international studies was in the kind of political science category. Spanish, my father was the son of a foreign service officer, my grandfather, going back decades. So he was born in Venezuela. And so I had kind of the international bug and the Spanish bug from kind of the early days. So I attached that to international studies. Interestingly, a lot of folks pursuing like more liberal arts degrees have a little bit of a cold shower when they look for jobs at the age of 22 with very little job experience. And so that's another conversation. But no, I think it kind of positioned me well to at least explore a lot of opportunities upon graduation.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've had an incredible career. And ultimately, going from, being a consultant, being an investor, going into venture capital, what was the, main reason why you switched over to entrepreneurship, going from a stable income to a more risky kind of path?
I think mentioned earlier, it really always dreamed of being an entrepreneur and an operator, and carving my own path. I think generally I found some of these more traditional careers, I kind of lost interest in, frankly. My mind is always wandering on kind of the idea side and like a what if, and, certainly looked up to so many entrepreneurs, that I've kind of read about or interacted with, and wanted to really bet on myself. And life is short, so said, let's go for it.
Oh, that's fantastic, Russell. One last question. If you could share any words of wisdom or advice to one either yourself in 2017 when you first started Spot and Tango, or just any early stage entrepreneur, what would that be?
Grit. You need grit. It take one day at a time. I would say grit can get you through anything. And that may be 7 days a week, or facing your challenges. Like the people can really dig deep, because regardless of entrepreneurship or the stories or a lot of successful companies, like every founder has a bad day. Things break every day. And in the early, it can be quite an emotional journey, and like it's easy to give up and throw in the towel and say like, well, I don't want to do that. It's too hard. The people that are successful wake up the next day and they get back on the saddle and say like, okay, let's just get through this day. And you look back, after 10 days, after 25 days, 35 days, and like you will have made progress. You may be in a hole, but you may be further out of the hole. So I'd say that's kind of my piece of advice. It's the grit and persistence to be successful, and to keep building.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The kind of the main thing that separates a really successful person from a really intelligent person is that grit. I think that successful person is willing to wake up 4 in the morning every single day, pump in 16 hours of work, and continue going about it. And actually, just one other question that kind of came to me as you're answering that, just as far as hiring 100 people in Allentown in that factory, how do you maintain your employees have that grit and determination to succeed? Because I know when you hire a bunch of people all at once, it's kind of difficult to juggle.
Values. We talk about our values a lot, in the company, and then we have a very high bar for hiring. So we have an internal HR team, and we just screen for those profiles of candidates. And myself and my co-founder are involved in every interview. So we've built a team, and built an HR function to facilitate the recruiting process, but we make every hiring decision. So we meet everybody that we hire, and that's, again, very, very important, because we are looking for that pattern recognition in the people that we bring on board.
Well, amazing, Russell. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No, this has been a really pleasant comment. I really appreciate it, Taiga. Have a great holiday.
I appreciate it too, Russell. You as well. And I will. And also, is there any way that people can find you if they want to get in touch with Spot and Tango? Of course, spotandtango.com, I'm assuming.
Yes, spotandtango.com, and or pupgum.com. Those are the two URLs. And again, really enjoy the conversation. Thanks so much.
Really enjoyed it too, Russell. I will have all that in the show notes. Thank you so much for your time.
Cool. Thanks.